Welcome back to the SOAR channel, where we focus on informing youth, parents in the community, and adolescents' health and wellness by bringing awareness and education and teens living a drug-free lifestyle. We want our youth to soar to their greatest potential. And in today's video, we have a special guest from MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Let's go. So we welcome Emma Dugas, Program Specialist for the North Texas affiliation Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Emma has been with MADD North Texas since 2018, and she provides community health programs by collaborating with law enforcement, the criminal justice system, and the citizens of Dallas-Fort Worth area. Emma has joined us today to discuss the MADD program and to give us a presentation on the power of parents, encouraging and empowering parents to have those ongoing, intentional conversations with their teens about the dangers and consequences of underage drinking. Emma, we are glad to have you today, and we're glad that you joined our channel to give this presentation.
Oh, thank you so much, Erica, for having me. Yes, today we're going to do MADD's Power of Parents program, and I want to try to help parents, provide them with all the facts and techniques on how to start those conversations with their teens. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And so today, I just want to give you a little bit of background about MADD. So we started in 1980, so we just hit our 40-year anniversary. A mother lost her 13-year-old daughter to a drunk driver in 1980, so she started MADD, and now we are nationwide. And so to create a world with no more victims, MADD has been by working with the community and law enforcement and the criminal justice system, we've been able to cut drunk driving and drug. So our mission, not only is it important to end drunk driving, but also to help fight against drug driving, because not only were we seeing alcohol in our offender system, but we were also seeing drugs as well. And then, of course, to support the victims of this violent crime, we have a 24-hour helpline where victims and survivors can call in to our call center, and they can get you into the right affiliate. So we have several affiliates across the country that so they make sure that they get in touch with the right affiliate for their county. And then our victim services advocates, they provide support groups, referrals, any assistance when it comes to compensation or any money that was lost during that time. And then they go to them for support in the courtroom as well. And then our last mission area, of course, is to prevent underage drinking. And that's what we're doing here today. So our underage drinking prevention programs is Power of Parents. And then we also have a teen one as well, Power of Youth. And we go over those dangers and consequences of underage drinking, but also techniques on how to say no and how not to get into an impaired driver's car. And we use real life situations so that way they are prepared and they're able to make a plan before they go out. Our national presenting sponsor is nationwide, so without this program, we would not be able to do our parent program. So just a few statistics. Alcohol is a drug. You'd be surprised how many people don't think alcohol is a drug, but it's the #1 drug choice among youth. And teen alcohol use kills more than 4,300 teens each year. And believe it or not, this blew me away, that kids actually start weighing the pros and cons of drinking alcohol starting as early as age 8. I mean, that's so young. I mean, that's babies, that's 3rd grade. And so we encourage parents to start having those conversations as early as age 8. I mean, parents definitely know the maturity level of their children, and if they feel that they're able to handle that conversation, we definitely encourage that. We've also learned through research that the human brain is not fully developed until the mid-20s. And so that's why it's important to wait for those teens to drink alcohol until 21. Your brain starts developing from the back to the front. And so that last part to finish developing, which is up here, that's called your prefrontal cortex. And in that section is where your executive functioning skills are. And so that's where your judgment, your self-control, your decision-making is all located. And that's one of the last things to finish developing. So teens tend to think in that here and now without regards to consequences. So that's why as parents, we want to make sure that they have all the information and be prepared so they're able to act in that moment. So the example that I give teens when I talk about the development of their brain, so say their teacher tells them, put your pencil down, put your paper on my desk, put your laptop in your backpack, go line up. So somebody with very poor executive functioning skills would most likely skip the first 3 steps and just do the last one because they see everyone lining up. So it's not a student that's not paying attention. It's a student that literally cannot absorb that much information at one time and execute it. So this is why at 5 years old, as parents, we give very short, simplistic directions because that's how much they can retain and execute it. And as they get older, their directions get longer, more complicated because they're able to take old information and new information and organize their tasks. And so what we've learned through research is that when you ingest alcohol or drugs, that it has long-lasting negative effects on those learning and memory functions. And so that's why it disrupts that decision-making, that self-control, and it impairs them to be able to retain all that information and execute. So another graph that I like to show is when it comes to underage drinking related deaths, that really only 32% of those deaths are due to car crashes, whereas the rest of that 68%, is incidences that do not involve a car. So 30% that's homicides, 14% that's suicides, and then the 9% that's other poisonings or alcohol poisonings, and then drownings, fires, and falls make up the rest. And so the example that I give the kids is, say your boyfriend breaks up with you, and then you get in a fight with your best friend in the same day. That is a hard day for a teen, right? So usually when teens revert to drugs and alcohol, it's to cope for that situation. And then what happens to those executive functioning skills? They're impaired. They go out the window. So that decision-making, self-control, and judgment, it goes out the window. And so that's why the yelling, the screaming, the doing, saying things that you normally wouldn't do. And so that's how homicides happen. That's how suicides happen. That's how, somebody getting behind the wheel when they know that they shouldn't. This is when I encourage parents and I encourage teens as well to find those positive activities to help them get through those bad days. Because life is hard. And so when I ask the teens, well, what do you do to get through a bad day? And I've had some teens say, Well, I binge watch Netflix, or I go work out, or I go read a book, or go take a walk. So anything that can help them kind of reboot and recharge themselves to get through that bad day. And so as parents, I would encourage you, find out what your kids are passionate about. Find out what they are into. And so that way, as parents, we can provide that environment for them. And another thing, too, is find out what their friends are passionate about. Find out what they are into. So that gives an opportunity for our parents, we can be relevant in their life and provide that environment for them. The role of the friends and peers is there's a lot of misperceptions that are out there. So a lot of middle and high schoolers, they tend to overestimate, how many teens drink alcohol. Everyone is drinking. I know I heard that growing up. And they're also wrong when it comes to how much alcohol is being consumed. So this misperception is these can lead to that belief that it's normal to drink, which can lead to more pressure to fit in and be like others, and it can lead to more teen drinking. So as parents, we can provide those facts and debunk those misperceptions. And because not everyone is drinking, only 1 in 8 teens binge drink. And so that's only 12%. And so not everyone is drinking. And by talking to them about what they're passionate about, what they're in, and also get them prepared on how to handle when somebody offers them drugs and alcohol. So that way they don't feel pressure to fit in. So having those phrases ready, like for instance, I asked my team, how would you handle someone offering you drugs and alcohol? And then that way it becomes a conversation, and that you're coming up with phrases together. I mean, because as parents, we tend to, since we know, we've experienced it, we want to just say, you need to say this, you need to do this. It's so easy to do that. But by asking them, how would you handle it? It's more of wanting to know what they think. And so that way it's more of a conversation. So the role of the adults, there's also misperceptions that adults think that by letting teens drink at home, that takes away that mystery. I get that so much. I hear that from parents all the time. And then that it's okay to provide alcohol to teens for special occasions or holidays. Or, they drank at a very young age, or they, used marijuana as a teen, but they turned out okay. And the thing is, like myself, we remember that transition when they changed the law from 18 to 21. We went through that. And so we kind of grew up where we thought it was normal to drink at 18. And whereas my parents and my parents' parents, it was definitely normal to drink at 18 or at a young age, because we just didn't have access to that research as we do now. And so we know why it's important to wait, to let that developing brain finish developing, because it has those long-lasting negative effects on those learning and memory functions. And it takes a long time for their brain to recover and develop and get over all that damage that was done by ingesting drugs and alcohol. And so we've also learned that when teens are permitted to drink in the home, that we think that we're keeping them safe within that environment. But research shows that they actually drink more, they drink more often, and have more problems outside the home. And so in our handbooks, which I'll make sure to provide that link for Erica to give you, so you'll be able to download our handbooks. But it goes over the parenting styles, and here are some basic styles. So authoritarian is where they give orders my way, the highway, kind of. My dad was a military man. That's kind of how it was in my house. My house, my rules. Then you have the overprotective parent, which, they stay in control, but they rush in when the teens make a mistake. So that way the teens don't face consequences to their action. And then you have permissive rule setting, which is, parents, they usually say kids will be kids, and they kind of let them figure it out on their own. And then that positive and authoritative styles that they use that authority to strengthen and protect, but not control. And so they build trust, and then they teach teens skills to make decisions. And so they make sure that they face those consequences when they actually make mistakes. And so, one parenting style is not better than any other. I mean, you definitely kind of figure out which style. Every child is different, and so each style, you can figure out which is better for your family. But we wanted to provide what the research shows, and we've learned that on the authoritarian side is that teens with this parenting style, they actually tend to consume the most dangerously high levels of alcohol. And a lot of that it's that rebel. You can't tell me what to do. I'm going to do what I want. I will show you, kind of thing. And then we've learned in this one, the positive and authoritative, those teens who have this parenting style, if they do choose to drink illegally, they actually consume significantly less than those of the other parenting styles. So in the handbooks, it gives a lot of these techniques when it comes to talking about alcohol. And what I love about those handbooks is because we've partnered with Dr. Robert Terussi, and he is a biobehavioral professor at Penn State University, and he has over 30 years of research when it comes to alcohol use and the teen brain, and all these techniques have been developed through his research. And when it comes to starting that conversation about alcohol, is he introduces the how, what, and why question. And he gives a lot of great examples in those handbooks. But one, as I had already mentioned when I spoke to my son about it, I used, how would you handle someone offering you drugs and alcohol? And so that way I'm learning what he thinks, and he's starting to use those executive functioning skills to figure out how he would handle it. And then asking him questions like, what are you passionate about? When you have a bad day, what would you like to do? How can I help you and provide that environment for you? So, and he gives a lot of great examples, and so I definitely encourage you to check out the handbook to kind of go over those scenarios. And then knowing how to communicate family values and consequences. So I do have an example I'd love to share with you. I was in awe of this mother on how she handled this situation. So she did have that conversation with her son, had consequences set in stone, and he knew the rules and what was acceptable and what was not. Well, he came home drunk and past curfew, didn't call in or anything. And so when he came home, this is what the mother said to him. I'm disappointed, but I'm glad you're home safe. Go to bed and we'll talk in the morning. Now, like I mentioned before, my dad was an authoritarian parent. He would have handled that so much differently. He would have yelled, say, you're grounded, blah, 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 blah. But really think about it. If she would have done that, well, one, he wouldn't remember because he was drunk. But two, when you drink alcohol and do drugs, what happens to those executive functioning skills? They go out the window. And so that's when the yelling, the screaming, the doing, saying things you normally wouldn't do. So if she would have started yelling and screaming, then that natural reaction would have been to do the same thing. And so by allowing him to go to bed, sleep it off, one, it helped her calm down. And then in the next morning, then that's when they would have that conversation. So he sobered up. Now, look, yes, there will be consequences, and we will deal with that. But find out that why. What happened? So remember when we talked in the early part of the presentation how I mentioned that a lot of times when teens use drugs and alcohol, it's to cope with a negative or something happened that's a bad situation. And so finding out that why and dealing with it so it doesn't happen again. Okay, so were you bored? Were you pressured? Did something happen at school or happen to you? And then once that is tackled, so it doesn't happen again, then we implement the consequences. Okay, you broke the rules, so this is what's going to happen, and then stick with it. And so I know MADD has come up with a parent-teen agreement. And so that's an easy way for you to write down what behaviors are acceptable, what are not, and then the consequences for each one. And then both of you sign it. And so that way that teen knows what his boundaries are and know what's acceptable. And then things to look out for. I mean, just to see those signs. See the signs of, because when your teen is abusing alcohol and drugs, there's going to be physical and there's going to be behavioral changes. Are they posting different things on social media? Are they more depressed? Are they lethargic? Do they smell different? Are they being more secretive? Are they not doing things that they used to enjoy doing? Just being able to recognize those changes and then asking those questions. What's going on? What's happening in your life? How can I help? And then if you definitely see those changes and they are not forthcoming and you think they do need help, definitely reach out to the community and those local resources and go to those treatment centers and get a behavioral assessment done. So that way they can get the help that they need. And then the last thing is handling questions about parents' own history of underage drinking. So that's really up to you how much you want to, divulge. I mean, my kid asked me and I simply said, I did not make good decisions when I was your age, but I didn't know this when I was young. And so now since I know, I want you to make better and safer choices than what I did. Now, he didn't press for any more. Yours might. But just to be prepared for that question and to know how much you want to let them know. So definitely you have the power to make a difference and to in your teens' choices and in their life. First, have that conversation, ask those how, what, and why questions, and definitely look at our handbooks. There's some great techniques in there, and I know it's helped me as a parent, and I truly believe that we can create a world with no more victims. Thank you so much. And here is our social media handles. You can follow us or like us on Facebook at MADD Texas and also on Instagram on MADD.Texas.
Thank you, Emma, for that great information for our parents. And we look forward to having you actually come back to our channel to do the presentation on the power of youth. And so I would like for our subscribers to please follow MADD North Texas on their social media platforms. We will have their links in our description box. Also, their link to their website and the link to the Power of Parent presentation. And then also comment below. I want to hear from you guys. What were your thoughts on the Power of Parent presentation? And we look forward to having you come back to our channel as we continue to discuss adolescent health and wellness. Thank you.